Women in Turning. I'm the regional ambassador for Women in Turning, or one of the many. I'm not sure if I'm it totally, but I probably am by the fact that I didn't run fast enough. You know what I mean? So one of our members at GAW put together a little PowerPoint. Unfortunately, when we tried to download it, it didn't like me. So I have to kind of scroll it up in order to get it to work, because every time I do it, it doesn't go to the right frame. So about 3 frames up, I'm only halfway. So this is Women in Turning, is one of the newest committees of the American Association of Woodturners. There was talk in the beginning of doing a separate group of Women in Turning as a whole nonprofit, and then we realized that somewhere along the line somebody had to run that nonprofit and fund that nonprofit and deal with all that stuff. So what we decided was it was more important for women to be a part of turning as the whole group. So what we're trying to do is educate women in wood turning, encourage each other. If you're on Facebook with Women in Turning, you'll find that it is the most positive feedback you will get. Criticism is just not there. People say, look, I like the color you used, I like the design, I like your technique. Next time, why don't you try this, just as a suggestion. No criticism at all. So it keeps you encouraged to go on. So that was our whole purpose of Women in Turning, was to give you a place to learn skills, to have some camaraderie with other women. And I want y'all to talk to each other and talk to us and tell us why you like wood turning before we leave today. So, but before we do anything else, try to remember that Peachtree Woodworking gave us this space today and has encouraged women, and we need to be mindful of that with them and help them. And if we need to buy something, go out there and pay the money for it, because it helps, you know. Somewhere along the line, we're going to run out of people doing wood turning, because our joke is when you look out at a group of wood turners, you see a whole lot of bald heads and a whole lot of gray. And it's mostly little men who are over 65 years old who have retired and have picked this up as a hobby. And one of our big goals overall with AAW is to bring in younger people, and women too. Women have been excluded for so long. I mean, in GAW, when you sit there and look out at the group of people, there's 1 or 2 women in the crowd. At Apple Ridge Woodturners, over the last 10 years, I've looked out and seen 8 and 10 of the 30 or 40 attendees. So they have a phenomenal participation of women up there, because they are very positive in what they do with the women members. They encourage, they teach, they bring them to their shops, they show them what they need to do. So we're trying to foster that same attitude all the way through with women. So we're trying to develop technical excellence, make new friends. Everybody needs new friends. We're trying to reach out to the community, the schools and private groups that are nonprofit. In fact, we're working on a program now for blind turners. There's a person who is setting up a blind turning school at every place we have a symposium. So here in Atlanta, we're working on getting that set up so that we can go in and teach blind turners how to do this. And one thing I was told about that this week was that a person who has not been able to do anything, who suddenly is able to make a pen, something as simple as making a pen, changes their life. So that's part of our community outreach. And we develop other turners so that they can go. I mean, 10 years ago, I wouldn't have stood up here and talked to you for love or money. I was chicken. They asked me to demonstrate at GAW, and I said, oh no, because I didn't know enough. I didn't feel like I was secure enough with what I was doing. So there's some ideas of what we do, different tools. These people made their own handles. You know, this is a woman who made her own turning handles. I do a lot of that. And see, they do beautiful work. The women bring a different touch to wood turning than the men. The men have a different vision. And so blending all that together is good for everybody. And then we make functional things too. These are scarf pins. If you ever do arts and craft shows, those things will sell enough to pay your booth fees. because women love them. It's something different. You have to have a Christmas present for the teacher or somebody like that at school. You know, you sell them for 15 or 20 bucks and they just fly. I did 10 of them the last time, and the next thing you know, I had paid my booth fee in the first 45 minutes or an hour of a show. So then the rest of it's gravy. You know, you can sell your pieces then. And there's all kinds of things that women make. This is a pocketbook. It looks kind of small, you know, on the monitor, but it really is a purse. And this is Michael Gibson turned the vessel, but his ex-wife Cynthia does all of the embellishment with the wood burning. So they're still good friends, and they work together frequently. And you see, some of us even take silly pictures. Group of rough-looking wood turners, I tell you. The middle one's Linda Ferber. She's the head of the whole shooting match up there. Great person, has really been encouraging. See, so the work you see is really, we're just trying to work together and help each other get a new skill, learn how to do this. And one of the offers I make to everybody is that I'll give you 2 free hours in my shop. Anytime you want to come, you just call me. And I'll teach you how to turn wood. And I'm fully insured and licensed. This is Suzanne Kahn. She was recently here for a couple of days. We had a tool party over at a warehouse in Austell where we put together all these tools for the symposium. So she was showing off that she can actually use a chainsaw. I have a chainsaw too. I have an electric one and a regular one. I have a real one too. But you see, women just come up with some beautiful pieces. So, and this young lady has got just tons of stuff at her show. Does she? I think so, yeah. I think her, does she? Is she really? I didn't know that. They sent me the pictures and I don't know who they are. Well, I didn't have any clue who it was. Is she? Great. And you see all the beautiful pieces here, and you'll see that goblet in the bottom left, kind of glowing. That's just a light where it's so thin coming through the wood. And believe it or not, even though it's glowing like that, it's a long way before you actually cut through it, or one big mistake. And we do that too. And wood turning, you don't have to learn a whole lot of different things. There's some basic things that you learn, and I'll show you in just a minute. You do a bead, a cove, a V, and a straight. Those are your, if you learn spindle turning, which is what, anytime you turn a long spindle like for a table, spindle turning, if you'll learn that first, you can do just about everything else. This piece is Suzanne Kahn's contribution to a project we did for the American Association of Woodturners Symposium. It's called The Fruits of Our Labor. And we all made odd fruit. Some people took it literally, other people made space fruit. They were either in space or the fruit was. So, but Suzanne went through this, painted it, stripped it, back and forth 3 or 4 times before she was happy with what she had. And that whole project will be sold. Isn't that gorgeous? Look at that. And this is in the center there, that's hollow, goes through. So, you know, before long you can do that. You can do anything with Bradford pear. That's my rule. You can do anything with Bradford pear. It's so dense and so good to turn. See, and this is another purse. They turned it round, cut it in half, and then did the bottom piece with the hinges on it. This young lady likes salads. You see this? This is Beth Ireland. She will be one of our demonstrators at AAW. She didn't have a salad bowl big enough, so she turned one. She'll shoot me for saying that about her. I'm sure she does architectural turning, so she'll do columns and things like, you'll see huge things on her lathe. And these girls all did spoons. It was just a gathering of wine and cheese and spoons. I think they drank the wine before they did the spoons. And as I said, we're trying to give young people an opportunity to learn to turn. There is a children's turning room at the symposium this year, along with the women in turning room. So the kids get to work with a world-class turner. They're like, I think there are 5 or 6 different people teaching in that kids room this time. And my daughter signed up for 5 classes, and they called and said, does your son Skylar want to do 2 yo-yo classes? I said, well, my daughter Skylar wanted 2 yo-yos, and the only way to get them was to take 2 classes. So yes, she did want to take both of them, and yes, it's AR, not ER. See, and the kids take to this. They really, so that's our future. We got to get our children and our grandchildren, and then there's the silly girls. This is Carmen de la Paz and Suzanne Kahn. They're both great wood turners, and here's our symposium coming up in June. So it says, come try woodworking, which is why you're here. Get you interested in it. If you're not turning already, you can see that it can be done. And this is the disclaimer. You know, we always have to have a disclaimer. You can't sue us. You can't hate us. Anyway, the images in here are random images, but I'll tell you one thing. We learned about them real quick. And I did this when I was driving while I thought about it. I took off my watch and ring because our #1 concern is safety. So when you learn to turn, wear a face shield, take everything off that can get cut, don't wear long sleeves. You have to wear safety glasses of some shape or form, but it's best to wear a safety shield because I can tell you that these things will crack straight up the middle if you get hit hard enough. And so far, I've only had 2 really bad accidents. One left that scar, which was nothing compared to the black bruise that was on my arm for about a month. I mean, this piece blew up and it smacked me. And I nearly fell over and cried when it happened. But the other one was one of those stupid accidents where I decided to vacuum my shop. You know, you get going and you don't clean. Basic, so these are furniture components. As I showed you before, that's a V. You're going to go in and cut to the center, and you have to work these out. You can't do this all at one big swoop. It's not, you know, it's not how strong you are, it's how good you cut it and how sharp your tools are. You have to just do this gracefully. You can't go in here with a great big tool and see stuff flying and expect to have something that's really intricate come out. I don't know about you guys, but ever since the honeysuckle started blooming, I have been too. So we got honeysuckle and privet hedge. So this is a V. And then sometimes you want a flat. And then you want to terminate it with another element. So this would be called a flat. And your object is to get it completely straight all the way across. So that's kind of the basics. See, that's not hard, is it? So from this, you can go to just about anything else. And today, I had a couple of options. And I said, I don't know exactly what I want to turn for y'all. You know, I was in a dilemma. Usually I'm real clear about what it is I want to do. And I said, because the only reason I was really in a dilemma about it is because I turn so many things that get so complicated. I forget that when you start out, you don't need that. You need to see the basics of how you do things. So I said, I'm going to turn you a little bowl and show you how to just texture it. So you get something round. You take a block of wood, you finally get it round. You see I'm not using my normal chuck and I'm a little lost here. I tell them the story that when I first started turning, I cut my finger, the very first demonstration, because I reached for a tool that wasn't where I thought it was going to be. Because in my shop, you know, we get a little more confused as we get older. And I'm at that stage where I'm way confused most of the time. All right, you put something in the chuck, you tighten it. You stand there for a minute because what's happening is those fibers are like this in that wood. And now they've got pressure on them and they're doing this. So that chuck's getting a little loose. As it sits there longer and longer, those fibers compress and compress. So give yourself one more minute. And see, there was a little more turn to there. And throughout turning, you will need to stop, which is a hard thing to make yourself do, and re-tighten your chuck, just for safety. And I'll bet you turned a little more, because they just get tighter and tighter, and then finally they crush. And you can keep crushing them if you want to, but you don't need to. You just need to make sure it's held in there. See the safety shield? First thing you do, especially if you have an audience, is pull this up till you true it up. And I'm going to change and put the short tool rest back on here, because it allows me to get that banjo closer up to what I'm turning. And this is probably not dead center. Well, it looks pretty good. But this keeps it from flying off at you guys. We don't need a surprise on a Saturday. And see, it's not quite level. See how it kind of moves a little bit? Up and down, up and down. It's gotten out of round. So before you start any project, you start with getting it back to round. This is a bowl gouge. I told you could turn anything with Bradford pear. Guess what kind of wood this is? So now you see how it's running really smoothly? And you see I'm not really pushing hard. It's not a matter of how strong you are that counts. I need to shape this into a little bowl, and then I'm going to hollow it out. So I try to leave myself a little bit of a safety zone between what I'm cutting and the chuck, so I don't hit the chuck. So when I get down through here, I give myself like a back plate there. That's my own keep me from getting hurt place. And the 3 basic beginning rules of turning are: anchor your tool on the tool rest, put the bevel to the wood, and then raise it. See, raise it into the cut. You'll start seeing, you don't raise it too far, just raise it into the cut. Now I'm going to leave that just a little thick so it's a little more stable right now. So when I do the actual bowl, in fact, I think this piece has a little tiny fault in it up here. No, it's just got a little crack in the center. Now's where we get fun. We're going to hollow this out a little bit. The other rule of wood turning, and I had a demonstrator Thursday night that I finally, after about 6 times, said, look dude, turn the machine off before you move the tool rest. Because this catches on that. It can snap and hurt you or hurt somebody else, but AAW says turn the machine off before you move anything. And if you get in a bad habit in the beginning of letting it run, you'll do it forever. And it won't take but one time when you say, I sure wish I'd never done that. So see, the front's still not quite even. And I'm ambidextrous, so you'll see me change hands. Did I get you good yet? No? I missed you? So I've got distance here. See, there's distance. You try not to have too much distance out of the way. The more you do, the more likely you are to get in trouble. And they tell you always to take and move it one time just to make sure it's not hitting anywhere. And we're going to do what they call hollowing. And I'm going to let this come back to right there. And cut myself a little groove, because you see how it tends to want to come backwards. When it's cutting, it'll want to jump back. So if you have that little groove there, that's your wall thickness of the bowl. and it's also your catch point. See, my tool is not going anywhere. It's in there. I can push forward and start my cut, and because I made that little stop point, it's not going to back out of there. But the trick is to keep it moving. Don't stop your motion. If you do that, anything's liable to happen. You know, it's fair game. Whatever you want to mess up, you can. And I tell everybody, I said, look, there is no mistake in wood turning that I haven't made at least twice, because I made it once and then I went back and did it again just to make sure it really was a mistake. And some of them, when on a good day, I made them 3 times. And this tool is too big, and I'll tell you why. When I'm making the turn, I'm hitting the back corner, and I generally knock that off. I didn't think about it, but I have another fun tool that really does a much better job. This is like turning with a great big iron rod. Now girls, I'll tell you a secret. When I first started turning, I used tools that were lightweight, and I didn't realize that women's hands, men don't have this problem as much, but we're not meant for this. Our wrist joints don't like all that vibration. So if you buy the weighted tools that are a little bit heavier, it cuts down on that vibration. This has lead shot all up inside, so when something hits the end of it, the vibration absorbs in the handle, not in my wrist, because to this day, I still sleep with a brace on my left arm for carpal tunnel. And I asked the doctor, he said, well, I can operate on it. I said, look, I'm a professional artist. Will I be able to have fine motor skills when you get through? He said, no, ma'am. He said, knowing that, I will not operate on your hands. I said, well, that's what I wanted to know, because I used to be a real artist who did painting and drawing. And now I don't have time for it. Too busy turning wood. I've had a painting in my studio for 3 months that I thought I was going to get back to the next day. I was like, yeah, I'm going to have to dust that sucker. All my shop dust is going up there. Now this is just a small piece, but it's exactly what you would do on a big piece. Now we have this shape on the inside. We're going to do the outside a little bit more. And I'm going to put this tool away, because this was just enough to get that inside. I'm going to use this little happy tool. This is also weighted inside. You hear it shake? It sounds like sand, but it's really lead shot. Did I get you? Make you have to move again? See, I like to mess with the cameraman because I change hands. It messes them up every time. I get my body in the way, they can't see what I'm doing. You can do this a different way, but for this, I want to leave that tenon on there for a little while because I want to be able to do a texture on here and show you how to do that texture. If I put a light in there, you might not see through it. I didn't get it that thin, but you know, nobody wants something to blow up when they're showing you how to do something. That's one of those mistakes I don't want to make twice. So we can get rid of some of the slack back here so we can have a bottom. See, look, now there he goes again. I had to make him move. There are so many things you learn after attending a couple of wood turning demonstrations. See, here he goes. He didn't know he's getting a workout today. He said, oh yeah, I'll do that for Peg. Now he's saying, Peg, I'm not doing your camera work. To get a really smooth cut, you have to not overcut the RPMs of the machine. And by that I mean, if you're cutting the wood and you're seeing little lines, you're going too fast with your tool. You're digging in and going, you're not getting all the wood cut. So if you go slowly with your movement and move your body, see my body's moving, not my arm. I'm stepping into that a little at a time, and I'm not going to sand this so you can see what a smooth cut this is when I get through. I've got a tool that's riding on a bevel all the way down through there and cutting down in. And we've got enough to make a bottom on this. But before I cut it off, I want to do some texture. So I'm just going to leave this. I didn't touch you. Why are you going faster? I didn't touch it. Ah, it's possessed. Hear it? I'm not touching it, I promise. It just doesn't like me. See, 26, 27. Oh no, am I electric or what? See, that's why I leave that wood there. So if I do something stupid, it doesn't hurt anybody, it just hurts me. All right, lathe, stop. I see you moving. I can see the numbers on the back side going up and down. It's 26.45, 25.99, 26.01. It's got bushings, bearings, or brushes that are not right. Okay, so we got a nice little bowl. See, it's about the same thickness. It's got a little nib in the very bottom. I leave it just a little bit of weight on the bottom because they tend to tip over. And it does have just a tiny, let me see if I got one little piece of sandpaper somewhere up here. If not, I'm going to have to grab it out of my box. Well, here it is. I'm getting better. It's got, you can always sand off a little dimple, but if it goes in, you can't fill it back in. So stop before you dig a hole in the bottom. And they like for you sand slower. I got to take that off so I can see. It's just got a little tiny piece sticking up. And since somebody's going to go home with this, I'm going to sand it just a little. And this is 400 sandpaper. I didn't have to shape this with 60 grit. You know, the more numbers, the finer the paper. 60's really rough, 1500's really fine. That's something they don't tell you first off either. You have to learn that by going to the hardware and looking stupid, saying, I need some sandpaper. And they say, what grit do you need? I'm like, grits? I don't need grits, I need sandpaper. Okay, so I have this really cool little tool that's a texturing tool. And I have been just having so much fun with this, so I had to share the fun. And I'm going to put just a little texture, just so it doesn't look plain. And speed makes a difference, and angle makes a difference. And it tells you to lubricate these guys frequently. Well, I can tell you, if you spray WD on that thing and you put it on a piece of wood, you're going to be covered in WD-40. And you're going to smell funny for the rest of the day. So it tells you on all those line videos on YouTube that you take the piece and you press in slowly and it starts to bite. And you have to really hold on to this little puppy or it'll take a visit off to the other side with you. So let's try it with a different angle. And let's press it down a little bit. And now we're going to do one more of the straight, which 3, 5, 7 elements looks better than 2, 4, and 6. And nobody understands the why of that. But I'm going to explain it to you. I'm going to explain it, Lucy. Your eye likes odd patterns. Your brain is not geared for even. When you see things lined up in a row, you'll automatically, you don't even know you do it, you start counting. I bet when you get to the top of the steps, you say 13, 12, 11. You don't even know it, but in your brain, you count things. And you like odd patterns. We're just wired that way. So when you see a pattern that's even, it throws you off if it doesn't have an odd number. Who knows why? You know, they did all this research about why you see things that oscillate, why when the wheel goes around and around for a certain amount, gets to a certain speed, it goes backwards. Who figured out that 32 frames per minute or per second was what made you not see the in between each frame in a movie? You know, that there were people that actually sat around and said, after that bicycle wheel goes so far, your mind starts seeing it go in reverse, and it's the same way with the odd numbers. So when you do patterns on a piece of work, do it in an odd number. Do 3 beads, don't do 4. Do 5 beads, don't do 6. So that's your rule from now on. I try not to make people have too many rules. I like for you to experiment. But I'm just telling you, if I did 4 patterns on this, it wouldn't look right. For some reason, you would think it was crazy. So here we got a nice little pattern. I don't know how well you can see, but these little guys cut in. Can you get it close enough to, no? Well, we can fix that. Give me my Sharpie. I'm just here to tell you. Oh, no, it's the pointy one. Oh, phooey, I don't have one. I got a pencil. I was just trying to get so you could see the pattern. Is she? Good. She's good, you know that? You have to pat her on the back before we leave and say, you know, thank you, David and Heather, for having us today. Because they didn't have to do this. This is their extra time. He travels so much. This is their home alone time. All right.
When you're turning, especially if I'm trying to replace that thing at the square around, how do you keep all this sawdust from going on your shirt?
Well, first of all, oh look, she's got a Sharpie. I just need a regular old Sharpie. I think this will do. I'm just going to touch the tops of it so you can kind of see. You can't do a Sharpie too fast because it'll heat. Sounds like a bumblebee, doesn't it? If you do a Sharpie too fast, it'll heat up and then it won't ever write again. It just like sears itself. So now you'll see the pattern. Oh, see? There you go. Now, wasn't that fun? All by a little, and it's dry almost instantly. When I do tops and stuff for kids, I give them colors. I have a whole thing of colors. And I'll turn a little top or a little pendant for them, and I'll give them colors and say, you pick your colors for what you want on your thing. And they love that. So we didn't have a whole bunch of colors. Now we're going to do the very last thing and cut this off. And this is a Knit Cook parting tool. Used to be till I ground it to death. It's probably about that long when you start out. I've had this probably 10 or 15 years. You know, all my tools are getting old and short. But it just has a little bit on the end in the very beginning and a long flute down here. But, you know, when you grind it and grind it and grind it some more. The other thing is, when you first start wood turning, David and Heather have a set of tools here. They're bowl gouges. I bought them at the one of the symposiums last year. This is it. They're called Savannah. I think they still have them. This is good steel. And when you first start turning, you're going to grind the fire out of everything you have because you don't know how to sharpen tools yet. So start out with something that's not going to bankrupt you, and then buy the really expensive tools once you learn to sharpen well. They're good to work with. As women, I would suggest you get somebody to drill you a hole in here and put some lead in them, just to give you that balance that you need. They're lighter, and I'll let you feel the difference between my handle and their handle. Pass these around, Charlie. They're basically the same kind of tool, almost the same size exactly. All right, let's cut this off. So the last thing we're going to do, then you have to get to know each other. See, there it goes, up and down. Let me move this down just a little bit since it's giving me a fun ride here. When you use a parting tool, you have to give the wood chips a place to go. If you try to just go straight in and make one big cut, there's no place for all the trash to get out. Same way with a blade, a bandsaw blade. When it's cutting, the goop goes in the cut, and once it fills up, it's hard to get it to cut anymore. Same way with this parting tool. So you have to give it does two things. It cools it down, and it allows the wood to escape. And when you first start turning, the hardest thing you learn to do in the beginning is to get this thing off so you can get a little saw. And when you get it down so far, just take that saw and cut it off, and then just grind that off, that little nib off. But when you get to where you've done it a little bit, you can always mess it up by doing this. So then you have a little bowl, but you have to cut that off before it sits even. And there was a woman that was one of the original board members that I knew of AAW. She had the weirdest name. She's still around. Her name is Linda Van Gehoesten. Say that 10 times in a hurry. We called her Linda G because nobody could get her whole name out. Now I can tell because this is ingrain wood that it's going to want to split down the road. And what you do with that, when you have ingrain wood, is you put just a little drop of CA on the bottom of it. This is cyanoacrylate. It's permabond basically for wood turners. That's still a little bit high. And if you'll do that, it'll seal it up and help stop that tendency to crack. It may still do it because it's kind of green wood. It's always better to turn green wood in a demo because it cuts better, it makes you look better. You know, if you're turning that dry stuff, you got all that dust all over you. But people want to see the curls fly. There we go. I usually have a pocket knife, but I realized I was violating federal law by carrying it in my pocket when I picked up my daughter at school. And so I took it out, and you know, I told you I had a bad memory. I don't know what I did with it. You know, stuff happens. We get older. I'm going to try to put this around the bottom without going over the edge. Just let it sit there for just a second. He's got his pocket. Look at you, Mr. Sharp Guy. I sharpened mine, and it's gotten to the age where it kind of sticks up just a little bit. And every time I reached in my pocket, I was getting a little nick, so I probably decided it was better not to have it anyway. Can't trust me with sharp objects. Okay, so here's the little bowl. Y'all can pass this around. I'm sorry, Charlie, I'm just making you jump up and down. You needed the exercise. Come on, let's face it, we both needed to jump over this lathe 2 or 3 times. So, I sent a pad around to get everybody's email address, men and women alike. And I'll tell you a little interesting fact. We're having the women in turning room at the symposium, and we had just about as many men sign up as we did women. So we did a lottery, and we pulled names out of the hat, and I think we're 40% men or so. You know, but they. And so I told them, I said, that's a lesson learned because people want to have an opportunity to do something at the symposium. They don't want to sit there on their butts and watch somebody else all the time. So like I said, anybody wants to come to my shop, it's free. You can't get any cheaper than that. Call me, say you want to come by. I'll be happy to give you a turning lesson. I'll let you actually use the tools. Can you believe it? You'll get to touch them. So what I want you to do is go around the room, tell us about yourself a little bit, who you are, why you like wood, if you've done anything with wood, so that all of us know each other. We're going to start with you, Terry, right?
Sherry.
Sherry. Well, I was close.
Yeah. I was going to die sooner than
Might as well die being a wood turner, you know?
and use some tools.
There you go.
Get something done because it's something I always wanted to do and I just kept putting it off.
Well, good.
I'm tired of putting it off.
Well, we're glad. We're glad you came today.
Thank you.
You want to tell us who you are? Walt Walters?
Walt Walters, yes. I'm Walt Walters. I am currently the president of the Gwinnett Woodworkers Association. We meet here every Saturday morning, and we have a turning group that meets the second Thursday of every month here at 6:30 in the evening. Any of you are welcome to attend, and as a guest, you can be my guest. Some of you come on a regular basis, so we're welcome to have you. We got some very, very good turners in our group.
Mm-hmm.
We even have some guest speakers, like Peg. I think she was here
A couple of months ago, yeah.
a little over a month ago.
Who's next? We're going to start on this side and work our way back around.
I'm Carol Cannell, and I live locally, and I'm a collector. My husband and I are collectors. My father-in-law and stepmother-in-law used to own the Continental Gallery down in Buckhead. And, so we have a house full of art. But the thing that I love is wood, because every piece is like a fingerprint. It's different, you know, it just has its own character to it. I am not a turner, but we bought a couple pieces from her at the Sandy Springs Festival, and she told me about the display today, and so I decided to come and find out how things are made that we've been collecting for years. So, and we knew my father-in-law's 93. He was friends with years old then.
I remember you telling me that. Yeah, yeah. I try to hook them where I can find them.
We've known a lot of the historic turners that have been very well known, so through my father-in-law. But I've never turned myself. However, I love arts and crafts. I've got all kinds of arts and crafts I do. So, but by profession, I was a mathematician and a physicist, and I'm now retired. So I'm taking up new hobbies.
Well, good. You can help me add and subtract. I'm learning. You know, every once in a while I'm just brain dead. What's 6 times 7? Oh, is it 43 or 42? Elizabeth Ross is our wood person here. She's Miss Two Tree Boys.
I'm Elizabeth Ross. I don't turn, although I have taken one of the 10 turning classes at Woodcraft. That was a lot of fun. I took with Frank Bowers, the instructor over there. And the way we got into this, my husband owns a tree service, so he does commercial and residential trimming and removal all the time. And, you know, we realized we were throwing all this beautiful wood away in dump, and he kept telling me for years he wished he could figure out a way that we could get it in the hands of people that could use it. And my sister-in-law, who is a wood turner and does a lot of woodworking, suggested about 2 years ago that if we were looking for a side business, we should consider selling wood to wood turners, and all I knew about wood turning is that it existed, it used a lathe, and you could make pens and bowls. That was it. So I said, what do we do? She said, well, there's got to be these clubs in your area. Google the club. And so we actually got in touch with this club here, and one of their members called and gave me some information, and then they in turn introduced us to another gentleman in the area who sells Mark Soleil, as you know, who sells wood and turns. And so anyway, it's, you know, started just this little hobby business for me and my kids to do, and it's growing nicely. So we sell what is considered green wood, which is fresh cut wood, like what she was using, and people come by and buy it in log form. We'll cut it down into blocks and rounds and different things. And we are going to be a vendor at the symposium, and we're actually supplying all the green wood for the hands-on.
Yay. Jane.
I'm Jane Bridges. I'm a member of this club and GAW and a club in North Carolina. And I've been members of other clubs too. But I wanted to tell you, no matter how old you are, you're not too old to learn woodturning. I was 60 years old when I first started learning, and I learned by being a member of this club, and one of the members said, why don't you stop by my shop and I will show you how to turn. And I said, well, that's great, because I hadn't done any turning. I was a wood farmer. And I was a member of this club for 6 months, and I would not even go to wood turning meetings because I thought they wasted wood. I love wood. And I'd see it on the floor and I'd say, this is awful.
Take the cap off.
And then I went to, actually I went to Romford Hardware, and they were training things for the troops. And I made a pen and wrote the next day. I just couldn't believe how much fun it was. I would go to the meetings, I'd say, wood on the floor, who cares? And it really is instant gratification compared to being a wood carver where you work on something for months, and then you end up with some little intricate thing, which is wonderful. But there are always people in the club who are willing to help the project. And you should never feel bad about asking for help because people love to help others. So I think I'll really enjoy woodturning as much as I can.
And she's going to be a grandmother here. She's fixing to be a grandmother here for the first time.
And Mark Soleil, who she mentioned, took my daughter as, he was the mentor to my daughter. And I don't know if he taught her to turn or if I taught her first, but she listened to him more than she listened to me. I do know that. She says that I taught her. I'm not sure. But she learned.
So I'm Audrey Michelle, and how I arrived here, let me take a deep breath.
Don't be nervous.
No.
We don't
not
bite.
that part. The short of it. So I'm new to Georgia, coming from California, but that's not where I originated from. But the reason why I mentioned that is when I got to California, I thought, surely I'll find a woodworkers guild or whatever somewhere close. The state is so wide, and it just seems like it was forever to find a place that was close. I was in the Dairyland area, so I thought, okay, this is going to be difficult. It was always in the back of my mind to try it as a hobby, because when I was about 11 years old, I took a woodshop class. You had a choice if you wanted to do sewing or whatever. It was an elective, so you could make a choice. So I made a little cutting board. It was a pig, and I just loved working with wood. So when I'm out shopping and looking for things, I get like this high because I love the wood items. The bigger, the more unusual and more exaggerated, I love it. So I believe that it also is in your blueprint or your lineage. If you're someone who is artistic, so I come from blacksmiths and builders and artists, and it's just there. Some of us do it on the side and doodle. I've done it in various ways of sewing, drawing, and other things. Always wanted to try this. I did not know anyone who was doing it, didn't know where to start, and I just started Googling. I put it on my whiteboard to do. This is what I'm going to do. Whether it is a hobby or it turns into something, it doesn't matter. I get like a high out of doing artistic things. So the rest of the world just melts away, and it's my drug. So even though I don't know a thing, which kind of doesn't really bother me, it's just like, where do I start? I don't know anyone. having equipment for the space. But if you don't start somewhere, you'll never start.
That's right.
So that's why I'm here today.
Good for you. Well, we're glad you came.
You can go start at
You
four.
passing back there?
Hey, try your free 2 hours, right?
Right. I would love
Start
to.
at-
Absolutely.
2 free hours, come on. You know, whatever it takes. Just come on up. Wait till after the symposium though, June 12th. We're a little pressed for time here this next couple of weeks.
I'm Valerie Cox. I live in Lawrenceville. My dad was a U.S. Forest Service district ranger growing up, so I've always been around the woods and loved it. A couple years ago for my birthday, I went out and found on Craigslist a lathe. It's just a Harbor Freight one, but decided I wanted to learn how to turn.
If you'll bolt it to the floor, it works better.
It's a big one, like it's
Oh, okay, good.
it's not the tabletop model. And so I've been playing with that some. I've joined the Woodworking Association. I also do Civil War reenacting, and I teach some medicine done during the Civil War. And one of the things I realized is that for cooking, there weren't a lot of long spoons for cooking over an open fire. So I started carving out of black walnut, long, open for cooking spoons for us to use at reenactments. And then turning some now and just kind of playing with here and that and the other. I eventually want to do some bowls. So that's kind of where I'm at.
Well, good for you. These two here are connected.
I'm Barbara Van, the other half of this. What he neglected to tell you is they went to Rockler for a demo, turning demo, and he called up my grandson and son-in-law because the grandson had broken his leg at summer camp and we were trying to find things for him to do. So do you guys want to go over there and watch this demo?
Yeah.
Well, you know, when you come into a middle of a demo or a program and you stay till it starts again, when you get to that point you leave, the kid didn't want to leave. And
That was before the pool class.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
before the bowl class. So he actually spent a lot of time being his cleanup boy because he turned and turned and turned and turned. Loved it. Well, he is graduating next Friday from Parsons School of Design. He's in
Good for
he's in
him.
product
Good for
design.
him.
Yeah, so this really has been a good thing for him. And when he was able to, he had to be in school, I forget how long, before he was actually in shop time. He calls up and said, "Grandpa, they have the same equipment you do, only a lot more of it." And he said some of the kids didn't even know what these tools and machines were, so he had to jump on all the other kids. I am not a wood turner or woodworker, but I appreciate wood. I still have a little white cabinet my dad made me, a little white china cabinet that my dad made me when I was a little girl. And he was very frugal. He was a farm boy. And it was painted white. And when we refinished it for my daughter, we found out that was all scrap wood under there. And it's still beautiful, but I'm kind of waiting for somebody to refinish.
Thank you, everybody, not only for coming, but for sharing. And we have one more little fun thing here.
And so now everybody has a white envelope.
Everybody got an envelope, right? They didn't open them. So open your envelope because this is your big door prize. Only one person gets it. So, you know, there's one envelope that has 2 pieces in it. Who got it? You got it. Look what it says on the bottom.
Oh, I win.
You win. Guess what you win?
Win.
This is courtesy of Women in Turning. It is one free admission
Wow,
to the 2016 symposium. So there you go.
I'm dramatic in case you didn't notice.
So write your name on there
I will.
and
I
present
will present.
that. You can call. I think it tells you what to do on the certificate. And a big round of applause for Peachtree Woodworking, please, for having us here today. Okay, guys, thank you so much for coming.